Before matter existed, there was only energy. Two energy beings, opposites, kept fighting for they could not mix into one. After fighting for so long, they decided to strike each other with all their might, exploding and scattering their energy throughout the universe. Just before the impact, the two beings separated parts of themselves. The part of darkness became a creature known as Spear, and the part of light became a nameless being that took a tiny bit of the dark energy into themselves. This nameless being was able to create another dimension, later to be known as Dream Dimension, and become its ruler while staying connected to all energy of the original universe. This ruler became known as the Collective Mind. Some of the scattered energy came together in the original universe to create a mix of both original beings, a new being that had the ability to create anything and control the universe. Even with all this power, the being named Ulsi chose to simply be an observer and discovered the universe and all its planets and inhabitants. As time passed and the material universe formed, many planets, stars, and life evolved and grew, containing energy in them like a soul and ultimately connecting them to the collective mind. Due to this connection, the collective mind learned about the universe extremely quickly and began converting the energy produced from the creature's thoughts into life in the dream dimension. Unlike life in the universe, there was no matter in the dream dimension, so everything was made of exclusively pure energy. Millions of years passed and the collective mind had created a distorted replica of the universe due to the influence of all living creatures. The dimension became a world of chaos and imbalance, where prey and predator were stuck in an endless cycle of chase, and instinct dominated the dimension's ruler. More time passed and the universe kept evolving. Creatures in certain parts began gaining self-awareness and instinct stopped dominating them. This brought massive changes to the dream dimension. The collective mind began creating beings, places, and objects that the self-aware creatures imagined and even gained a limited sense of self-awareness of its own. While not actually having a personality, it learned of what it was and divided itself into two beings. One which was responsible in creating and developing all that existed in the dream dimension, and another which was responsible with learning its world and becoming a true ruler. Order began to reign in the dimension. Groups began forming and the dimension began to divide itself into distinct areas that barely interacted with each other. Eventually, the side of the collective mind that created the world couldn't handle the amount of self-aware beings in the universe and their thoughts, and began to overload. This created the Great Tear, a rip in the dimension that connected it to the original universe without first going through the collective mind. Due to the dream dimension being solely energy, no material thing could enter it, and so people began entering the dimension when they fell asleep or left their bodies. The first to arrive in the dimension thought they were simply dreaming until they met those from their world in it, thus naming it the dream dimension. At first, those who had lucid dreams couldn't even distinguish their own dreams from the dream dimension. Much like the collective mind, all those that entered the dimension could create all they wanted, although the collective mind limited their ability so it wouldn't destroy the dimension. This interference by the collective mind warped many people's minds, causing some to lose their sense of reality and others to be consumed by the creatures and environment of the dream dimension, and as such, losing their minds and entering comas forever. Those that weren't manipulated weren't any safer though, quite the opposite, since they had no way to defend themselves against the horrors of the dream dimension. In the real world, countries had waged wars on one another because they believed a certain enemy of theirs was behind all the comas. These wars lasted few years though, resulting in most countries being wiped out and the remaining few to band together to create super countries. This occurred in many planets of the universe where there was self-aware life, although the more peaceful civilizations were able to escape the carnage and work together to study and learn about the phenomena. After seeing how people from the real world were affecting and transforming the dream dimension, the free ruler returned to its other half and stayed there, protected by a group of elite guards it had created. They then hid away to make sure no dreamer would be able to find them and tried to destroy them.